Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Cork It podcast. My name is Kyle. I'm joined here by...
Dante Ellison.
Nico Genovese.
We're back, week 2 here back in the studio, and we've got quite an episode in store. A lot's been happening in the sports world since we last talked in here. Donovan Mitchell trade happened. We have the NFL season coming up, week 1. Just today was announced that Montrezl Harrell signed with the Sixers. Mm-hmm. We've got a crazy slate of college football matchups from the first week, and we've got the U.S. Open in full effect chugging along, and there's been some very interesting matchups. There's been some very interesting upsets, so we're going to dive into those all a little bit. So first off, around the league, let's go into this real quick. NFL season's upon us. We're going to get a lot into that as time goes on. Last week, we talked a little bit about fantasy football and like stuff like that. We talked about the winners, like players that you should pick, losers, players you should not pick. And then, so week 1's coming up soon. You should have all your drafts done. We're doing one more tomorrow before the Thursday night game. So that should be interesting. College football's in full effect. We saw some crazy matchups. We saw NC State versus ECU. ECU missing a game-winning field goal to try and take down NC State, who's ranked. We saw OSU versus Notre Dame, OSU winning by 11. Florida versus Utah, where Florida upset Utah off of a game-winning interception in the end zone. And then LSU and FSU, where LSU tied the game with no time left on the clock, and then their kicker gets his PAT blocked, and they lose to FSU, which is crazy. There was a bunch of other games, too, that were crazy. OU won their home opener against FAU, so that should be fun. I think the crazy thing I saw was, have you looked at Kent State's their schedule? So their first 4 games are away at Washington, which isn't crazy, and then week 2 they're away at Oklahoma.
God.
Week 3 they're home against Long Island, FCS school, and then week 4 they're away at Georgia.
They play Georgia,
and this is a MAC school. So this is a MAC school that's going against Washington and then 2 top 10 opponents within their first 4 weeks of action.
God.
That's absurd to me. So they're going to have quite the road trip, but I follow one of the videographers for Kent State, and they're they came from Washington straight to Oklahoma. They aren't even going back to Kent State. So they're just chilling there for the week, and then they play the game on Saturday. And then they go back home to play Long Island, which is crazy.
Those players get a week off classes.
Right. Yeah. But the funny thing was, I saw this tweet too, and it was I know you might need the money for your program, but at what cost, right? Because they're getting a lot of money from these big teams that are paying them to come out and play, but they are gonna take a beating those first couple of games.
60-0. What?
They didn't do too bad. I think they lost by 25 against Washington, but they didn't cover. So crazy college football stuff going on. Week 2, I'm not sure how week 2 will go. I know week 1 there was a lot of big matchups. I feel as we get later into the season, we'll see some more matchups, and we'll get some conference play stuff we want to get into. Let's move on to the NBA real quick. Donovan Mitchell trade happened. Mm-hmm. He got traded to the Cavs for Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, Ogbody, their rookie that they just drafted, and then Ochai Ogbody. I'm going to butcher his name, But the guy from Kansas, Cavs drafted him at 14. He's getting moved in this deal to Utah. And then, was it 3 first-round picks? Mm-hmm. 3 first-round picks from the Cavs to the Jazz. And a lot of people expected this. The Jazz are going into rebuild. It took them long enough, in my opinion. Yeah. And Donovan Mitchell gets a new spot in Cleveland, which is exciting. But there's been a lot of drama surrounding that. We'll get into that later this episode. But that's been interesting in the NBA. And then Montrezl Harrell just signed for the Sixers, which should be interesting. That's a good backup center for them. And, that should be exciting. We're getting ready to go. 2K ratings dropped. A lot of people had stuff to say about that, but that's not for this. And then let's go U.S. Open, because that's also something crazy going on. So Serena Williams lost her last match the other day. She's officially retired. She announced retirement before going into this. She said this was going to be her last tournament, and then she got eliminated, which sad to see. But the crazy thing I didn't realize is, do you know how long Serena Williams has been playing
I saw some of the stats, and it's like these people were like where they were at.
It was like what in her
LeBron
first
still in high
match.
school or
Yeah, in
something.
her first match, LeBron hadn't even played a high school basketball
Yeah.
game yet, and Tim Duncan was the rookie of the year.
It was like Sue Bro was a freshman in college. It was like what? The
Yeah,
heck?
so she's been dominating for a long time. Sad to see her retire. Other stuff going on in the U.S. Open on the men's side. Kyrgios keeps winning, and he keeps going. He plays tonight, I believe. I mean, we're filming this on Tuesday. You're going to see it on Wednesday. He plays tonight, so we'll see how he plays there. But he played well in doubles and singles. That he's both doing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last point is Nadal lost in 4 sets to USA-born Francis Tiafoe, the number 22 seed, which was a huge upset. And in my opinion, it's cool to see a U.S. guy, especially a younger U.S. guy, get that opportunity to take down the number 2 seed, a big David versus Goliath story. And he won in 4 sets as well. So like it wasn't like very, very close. Like he like took it to him. And so that was very exciting. Does he play tonight as well?
I'm not sure.
It's every other day, I'm pretty sure. So he might be playing tonight.
I don't know.
Or no, he'll be playing tomorrow. He'll be playing Thursday.
I'll look it up right now.
Besides the point, it's exciting to watch. He played very, very well and took down number 2 overall, which is exciting.
Yeah, he plays tomorrow.
Yeah, he plays Thursday. Okay, so we'll have to watch that when it comes.
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Yeah.
Oh, Wednesday. So he'll play when this comes out. So watch this tonight, TFO in his match.
He has a chance to win it all.
Yeah, he did really, really well. I mean, I watched some of that match. He did really well. And I think it would be exciting to see a guy from the U.S. win it, especially it's like the U.S. Open. That would be really, really cool to see. Anyways, let's dive into today. First off, let's go talk Donovan Mitchell trade since it's so fresh. We got some basketball. We got some football. We're going to try and get through it all. And we'll see where we end up. All right, so Donovan Mitchell, we talked about the trade straight up, but there was a lot of stuff going on with, like, the Knicks got a trade declined, and they offered R.J. Barrett, Obi Toppin.
That was crazy on the Jazz part.
3 first-round picks,
Yeah.
and who was the last guy? Was it
Fournier.
Was it
R.J. Barrett, Obi Toppin, and
Mitchell Robinson.
Mitchell Robinson? Right. So Mitchell Robinson, R.J. Barrett, Obi Toppin, and 3 first-round picks.
I don't know why the Jazz
Which is a
would decline
crazy
that.
package for the Jazz.
Because it's the same one as the Cavs, but in my opinion,
It's better.
It's 3 better players than the Cavs.
Yeah,
offered.
and I
It's
mean
the same amount of first round picks.
Right, same amount of picks, and in my opinion, Knicks first round picks are much more valuable than Cavs first round picks, like by a lot. So to me, it was kind of dumb that they didn't make that trade on the Jazz part, but at the same time, it also came out that they were like, oh, we didn't want to give Mitchell what he wanted and send him back home to New York, but instead send him to a better situation on a better team that's ready to win now and younger and possibly has like the next best thing in Evan Mobley. So I don't understand the logic behind that. They sent him to like the better
was confused on
situation.
that.
So you really stuck it to him, I
Yeah.
guess. So anyways, let's go winners and losers of this trade. You guys got winners or losers of this Donovan Mitchell trade?
I got Cavs winning. I just feel like the Cavs got a top player in Donovan Mitchell. They didn't have to give up too much. I mean, Markkanen's a good player.
Mhm.
Like, he had some big plays for them. Colin Sexton was hurt the whole year, so it's not like he had a huge impact, and we saw what they could do without him. And the picks, I mean, the Cavs are a very young team, so it's not like they needed the picks, especially because they don't need a top pick to win now. So, I mean, I think with the young core they have, adding a spark like Donovan Mitchell, I think the Cavs won, and I think they're going to do great.
I agree with that too, especially with the picks thing, is because I didn't realize this until I started watching the Thunder draft, is people are like, oh, the Thunder have like 3 first-round picks this year. But how often do you ever use all 3 first-round picks? Like, the Thunder used all 4 of their picks this year, or they had 3 picks this year, and they traded for a 4th, and they drafted all 4 guys, and they plan to keep all 4 guys. But at some point, you're going to realize, like, we've got a good team, like, ready to go. And, like, we want to keep our vets.
Let's
like,
trade these
we don't
picks
have
for some good
Right.
veteran players.
So at that point, it just becomes assets. So in that case scenario, it was a good move by the Cavs. And I said this to someone else, too. And they were talking about, like, oh, well, the Cavs gave up, like all this. And I was like, if you think about it, though, Ochai is a rookie. And then Sexton didn't play last year.
Exactly.
So you basically just gave up Markkanen 3 firsts, which in my opinion is a steal of a trade.
Steal for the Cavs.
Right? And I mean, the Jazz are still getting Colin Sexton and Ochai, so like the Jazz are getting value of it, but like from what the Cavs gave up, it doesn't seem like that much on their end. Dante, you got winners or losers?
I thought both sides won the trade, in my opinion. If I had to lean one way, I would say Cleveland won it. But, I mean, Jazz got pieces for their rebuild. They got their first-round picks. They got Sexton, Ochai. I mean, both sides. And then Cleveland got their win now, man, and Donovan Mitchell. So I think it benefits both teams. But if I had to lean one way, I'd go the Cavs winning this trade.
I agree with that. So my winners and losers are a little differently because I went outside of the Cavs versus Jazz. So I'm going to take for a winner, I'm going to take Colin Sexton. And because, I really loved watching the Cavs when Colin Sexton and Darius Garland played together. But I don't know how sustainable of a future they had playing side by side because it seemed like Colin Sexton is a pretty ball-dominant guard. And in my opinion, I felt like Darius Garland was the better point guard and should have the hands, keys to the offense, basically. I think that he is such an incredible player, and watching him this year, Darius Garland play and drop like 19 assists against the Sixers like it's nothing was insane. So I think that Colin Sexton's a winner here because he basically goes to a rebuilding team and basically just gets the keys to do whatever he wants, right? He can take as many shots as he wants. He can have the ball at all times. And he is a very, very solid offensive player. And he brings intensity on defense, too. And that's the only reason I think that, like, if you were, like, to pick between Donovan Mitchell and Colin Sexton, I would say that the intensity Colin Sexton brings on defense is a little bit more helpful than what Donovan Mitchell brings defensively. However, when it comes to scoring, I would say that, Mitchell's, like, a better shooter, but they both can score the ball. Like, they both can average 25 a game on whatever teams they're on their respective teams. So I think Colin Sexton's going to get a chance to prove himself by himself in Utah. He's probably going to, in my opinion, average 24 a game. He's going to have like a SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander season where he's going to put up really big numbers on a team with not a lot of wins. So I think that he's a winner in this trade. He's going to be able to show what he does. He's going to get the keys to an offense, be able to do whatever he wants there. And then I think the loser of this trade is the New York Knicks because, in my opinion, the Knicks missed out on a superstar or an all-star, a very, very solid player in Donovan Mitchell who would have made their team playoff contenders. Because after the move for Jalen Brunson in the offseason, picking him up, it just seems like the Knicks don't know what they want, right? And they were like, we're going to pay all this money to Jalen Brunson to average 16 and 7 on our team and start over Derrick Rose as point guard. And then they're going to have R.J. Barrett, who keeps improving. And they'll have, Julius Randle didn't have a great season last year. Mitchell Robinson, they signed to an extension who's not very good offensively. And you just look at this team and you're like, what is the direction they're trying to go? Because if making a signing like this Jalen Brunson signing where they overpaid him, makes it seem like they're in a win now mode. But they don't
get big guys.
They don't get big guys to win now, right? They're missing out on that. And I think that the Knicks could have gotten this done months ago if they were willing to part with guys that the Jazz wanted, right? And they just waited, and they were like lowballing offers from all the reports. They were lowballing offers. And then the second, they were like, all right, well, we're going to commit to R.J. Barrett then. They move him to the Cavs. So they waited too long to include R.J. in a trade that I think they waited until there was another bidder that they considered more. So I think the Knicks missed out on this, and as they continue to miss out on big-name free agents and trades and stuff like that. So New York Knicks somehow end up a loser of this trade after not even being a part of it. So that's my take on that. All right, and let's keep going. We're talking about the NBA. We've got winners and losers. We've got a lot of movement in the Eastern Conference now that Donovan Mitchell's moved there. And there was something that came out today, and they were like, all right, here are 9 teams that will possibly make the playoffs in the East, the top 9 teams. Which one of these teams isn't making it? Barring injuries and all that stuff, I'm assuming some people are going to deal with injuries, and that'll be the team that slips out. But barring injuries, who do you think misses out on the playoffs in the East?
I think out of the 9 teams, the top 9 teams, I think Hawks and Raptors might fall. I think I like the Hawks signing and DeJounte Murray, but I still feel like they don't have a key piece at the big man spot to really be a contender in the East and really make that push forward to where they need to go. Because, again, their backcourt's going to be really good with Trey and DeJounte, but I don't think that's as big of a push as they needed to fall in those final 8 spots in the playoffs.
Yeah, I was debating the Hawks too, but I went with either the Raptors or the Bulls. I like DeRozan on the Bulls, but again, that big man, I don't think Vucevic can. I don't think he's that good enough to propel them into the playoffs. So, if I had to pick one, it'd be the Bulls.
I kind of agree with that too, especially with Lonzo Ball still not. Who knows if he's going to be healthy again? And Lonzo Ball is a key part of that team. So if he's out for a majority of the season again, then I can see the Bulls falling.
I will say, though, the Bulls did deal with some injuries last season, which is kind of why they fell, but they started off pretty hot. I mean, they were a top 4 team in the East for a while until they hit that injury bug and then started to fall down. They fell, and they ended up at 6, lost first round. They couldn't get it done against good teams. No. But that doesn't necessarily mean they aren't going to get it done against bad teams. So I still think the Bulls still will probably make it if everyone comes back healthy. We don't know about Lonzo. It'll be interesting, but I mean, we saw Ayo come in from Illinois and make an immediate impact on the floor. He's just going to get better and get more minutes. I wouldn't count the Bulls out yet. But the reason that I say that is because I would count out, I think the Raptors are still a little bit young, and it's all dependent on Fred VanVleet and Siakam just continuing to push forward. Because those guys are both very, very solid, I mean, all-star caliber players. And if they can push through and keep playing and keep winning games, then that'll keep them in it. Because I really do like what the Raptors have built there, but it just seems like they're a little bit young. But they are very scrappy. They remind me of the Grizzlies, right? It's like, I mean, the Grizzlies had like a guy like Desmond Bane who made an impact like that you didn't really notice because it kind of went under the radar. And for the Raptors, that's Gary Trent Jr. I mean, how many people realize that Gary Trent Jr. averaged 18 a game on pretty efficient shooting? Like, not a lot of people realize that. So I think the Raptors have what's there to push forward, but I do think they are on the outside looking in as it stands now because the Cavs got so much better this offseason. And at some point, Evan Mobley's going to take off offensively, and he's just not going to look back. And I think the Raptors fall, and I really do think the Hawks fall. And I love DeJounte Murray so much. I think he's a great player. He brings a huge defensive prowess in that Atlanta backcourt that they were lacking. And I think he's going to be special there, but they still don't have a ton of depth. And that just comes from the fact that, I mean, DeAndre Hunter's still, I mean, pretty young in his NBA career. He's actually kind of old, but he's still pretty young in his NBA career. And then you've got guys like Gallinari actually left. He goes to the Celtics, and John Collins is there, but John Collins still not offensively, and he's not going to make a jump unless somehow he does, and he proves me wrong. But I don't see him making a jump. Clint Capella is not a great offensive big. They've got their backup right now who's still pretty young, but he's not great offensively. So it's just, you look around this team and like, if you're relying on Trae Young to score 30 a night and DeJounte to put up 22 a night in order for you to win games, you're going to struggle a little bit. However, I do think they got a lot better.
I think they got better, but I was a little frustrated that they didn't make the moves where they, like, in the positions they needed. Because, again, the big man spot in the 4 and 5 was what the Hawks really needed to make that big push. And, again, I love the signing. Like you said, I love DeJounte, but it's like, and then they just went and signed another guard. Like, you know what Trae can do. He's going to ball out. And then you got
Bogdan?
No, Hunter.
DeAndre Hunter?
Yeah.
I mean, he's still like a wing, but at the same time, like, I definitely don't
who's their shooter?
Bogdan.
Oh, no, Herter, but they moved Herter in the trade.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, you didn't make the moves you needed at the 4 and 5 spot to really contend. Because, we all agree, John Collins isn't going to make that big push. So, I just feel like if the Hawks were really in, like, a win now, we need to do this to make the playoffs and make a push, they should have signed a big.
So, here's the interesting thing I think is about the Hawks is there are some, like, wild cards potentially. They drafted AJ Griffin, who has some upside there potentially, but he's not going to make an impact right away. Bogdanovich is still up in the air because he was not, I mean, back in Sacramento, he was like very, very solid. And then once he got to Atlanta, you didn't see that back from him. Onyeka Okongwu, that's who I was talking about earlier. He's not going to make a great offensive impact on the floor. He's a great defender, though. Great defender, great rebounder. He's not going to make that offensive impact on the floor. So it's just like you look around and you're like, who's scoring here? Like, I mean, Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, but then you've got your next two guys are DeAndre Hunter and John Collins.
Yeah.
And the jury's still out on them. So it just seems like there's a little bit of depth that you're missing there. And that's kind of why I have them on the outside looking in. Not to mention, you also have teams like Charlotte, who won 43 games last year.
I don't think Charlotte's going to do good.
You think they're going to have an off year?
I think it's still going to be maybe playing for them, especially because Miles Bridges, who knows what's going to happen with him. And then they didn't really make any big offseason moves, so it's like the same team. So I just feel like they're going to still be in a play-in spot, like maybe making the playoffs, winning the play-in, but it's like I don't think they're going to be a team that's really fighting for that 8th spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I don't necessarily believe in them, but I think they're still a playing team.
Which sucks because I love LaMelo Ball. I really want him to do well. But I feel like after his rookie contract's up, I feel like he's got to look elsewhere. Because the Hornets have never really made any huge moves to make that team better.
But the thing is, though, he'll make so much money in Charlotte if he stays.
If he wants to win,
like double what he'd make at other spots.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's something you have to think about. And the Charlotte just needs a big man. Like, in all honesty, like, you look at that team, like, they have no center. Like, Mason Plumlee is their center. Yeah. I did like the draft. I liked picking Mark Williams. I thought that was a good pick. I mean, I do kind of agree with you. I think it's because I like James Bouknight. I like that pick for them last year. Mm-hmm. I like the pick for Mark Williams this year. I definitely think that they still need time to improve, but at the same time, like, LaMelo Ball was insane, and he was only a rookie, right? So he's going to get better in his second year. Terry Rozier, he's always been a solid starter. They've got Gordon Hayward, who still plays efficient basketball, even after breaking his ankle. I mean, it's just tough because they are a young team because their main star is young, and they got a couple good guys in the draft, so it's going to take a minute, but I also want to talk about another team that I know you disagree with me on this, but I still think that Detroit, I know they're very young, but I think they could have like a Memphis-type season where they defy the odds. Whether that be making the playoffs is kind of far, but to go as far as saying they could get the 10 seed, I feel like isn't insane, right? You'd have Cade Cunningham taking a jump in his sophomore season. I'm not a huge Cade Cunningham fan, but he did play very, very well last season. You got Jaden Ivey coming in at shooting guard, who was electric in college for Purdue, and he's going to come in my opinion, make an immediate impact on the floor scoring-wise. Mm-hmm. Sadiq Bey showed what he can do last year. Marvin Bagley, they signed him, and I really am still high on him because I think that he just got screwed over by being in Sacramento. Yeah. I think that on an actual team that knows how to utilize him effectively, he'll do well. And then Isaiah Stewart, I mean, he's just crazy athletic, but I mean, and I loved what they did in the draft. They drafted Jalen Duren. I loved that pick along with Jaden Ivey. I think those were both two good picks. Having Jalen Duren come in, he's, like I said, kind of similar to Isaiah Stewart, just an athlete. They're going to both like do very, very well on the boards. And because not a lot of scoring is going to be done down there, because it's going to be done on the wings or on the outside by Cade and Jaden and Sadiq, like, I don't think it's a problem that they aren't the biggest like fundamentals, like put your back to the basket and score on guys. And they've got some depth there, right? Amadou Diallo, very, very solid. Kelly Olynyk is pretty solid, even just as a backup. Alec Burks is a great scorer off the bench. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Killian Hayes, but he's still young, right?
They have Kemba too.
Yeah, but he's not going to play there. I doubt he stays. I'm pretty sure they're going to buy him out.
He's going to get moved.
Or get moved. I don't think he stays there.
That is a league, got a lot of young talent, but I just feel like they don't have the coaching that the Grizzlies did.
I think that you might be right about the coaching, but I think their general management is crazy good. Like, I think their GM worked for the Thunder for years underneath Sam Presti, and clearly, like, you can kind of see the vision they're going with. It's very similar to what the Thunder are doing. They're drafting high guys with a lot of upside, and then they're getting ready to win. And I think that Detroit has an opportunity to, leap next year. However, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see for sure. But I wouldn't be surprised if they have definitely, overachieve what people think they'll have.
Year.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, if they will most likely, in my opinion, I think they will overachieve what people are thinking they will do next year. So I would bet the over on Detroit wins next season. So that's going to kind of do us for the NBA content. There's a lot of stuff going on. We got like 20 more minutes, so let's go talk some NFL content for us real quick. Real quick, we got week 1. We're not going to bore you with our picks for every single game of the week, but we did pick 4 matchups that I think will be fun. So we'll go through and do our picks for that. So first of all, we've got Thursday night, Bills versus Rams, game 1, and it's like a very, very good matchup.
Game.
We got the AFC almost champions in the Bills versus the Super Bowl champs, the Rams. I mean, in my opinion, the Bills, granted they did lose like before the AFC championship and couldn't even make the AFC championship, but like they were so solid last year and like we're literally like 13 seconds away from making the AFC championship. So what are your thoughts, Bills versus Rams Thursday night?
I got the Bills. I mean, people have been saying this for a couple of years ever since they got Diggs, but I think the Bills hates me to say it, but I think they're huge Super Bowl contenders. And in my opinion, I think they're going to win it this year. I mean, they were a coin toss away from going to the Super Bowl or AFC champions. So, I mean, I think the Bills will take this one. I'm really excited to see this game because it's going to be a heck of a game, especially with the Rams. I think they got a little better even after winning the Super Bowl. So, I mean, I got Bills take it, but it's going to be a close game.
Yeah, I'm going to go the opposite of you, and I'm going to go Rams on this one. Last year, the Bills started off slow. They played my Steelers, and they definitely should have won that game, but they looked pretty bad at the beginning of the year. But Rams coming off that Super Bowl, I think they're gonna take this one. They're just too talented, but the Bills are very good in their own sense too.
I will agree with you that somehow the Rams did get better this offseason. I mean, they lost out on Von Miller, but then they immediately replaced him with Bobby Wagner. They added receivers. I mean, they took the guy from Chicago who had no help, Allen Robinson. And I think they did get better. However, I still do think that the Bills are going to come out strong week 1. I really do like what they're doing in Buffalo. I think they make a deep run this year. And, I mean, their defense is so solid. They added Von Miller, and, I mean, that defense is going to be very scary to play, like, night in, night out.
Yeah.
And then, not to mention, they still have top 3 quarterback in the league, in my opinion. Stephon Diggs. We saw Gabriel Davis break out last season for them. They still got guys like Cole Beasley. You know, their tight end's still doing really well, Dawson Knox.
Didn't Cole Beasley retire?
Did he retire? I thought he's still on the roster.
No, I think he retired. I was happy about it because he always sucks on my fantasy
I think there
team.
was like the vaccines, like something happened with the vaccine, so he hasn't been on a roster for a while.
Gotcha.
If I'm not mistaken.
Maybe he's just a free agent, but I thought he retired.
Oh, I think he did retire. Okay, besides the point.
Yeah.
Their wide receiver
Still
room is still
team.
solid.
Still
They got
solid team.
Stephon Diggs. They added Jamison Crowder from the Jets, which should be interesting because I always liked Jamison Crowder, but he has no quarterback, and now he's got Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And then you've got Gabe Davis, who played really well in the playoffs last year, and Isaiah McKenzie, who I'm really excited about to see
I think
in
he's
a
going to
role
explode this year.
because he is so fast, dude.
Yeah.
He is extremely fast.
I think he's going to be really good in that slot position for them.
I think he'll be very good. So I really like what Buffalo's doing right now. Cole Beasley did retire. I don't know why I forgot that. I think Buffalo takes this game week 1. I think they win by at least 7 or more. Like I think they like win
I'm going to say it's between
pretty well.
7 and 10, anywhere in that range.
All right, let's keep going. Next game. This one's just going to be a fun matchup. So I don't know how close it'll be, but let's go Browns-Panthers. Who you got in the Browns-Panthers?
I got Panthers. I mean, the Browns have no quarterback, so, I mean, there's not going to be really anyone who can throw the ball on that team, and I think it's going to be really fun seeing now that Baker's the starter in Carolina. I think he's going to explode. I mean, Baker did have a terrible season, but you can say part of that was because of his injuries, but I think him getting traded, the whole situation with Deshaun Watson and him still being on the Browns and all that, and then now him playing his old team week 1, I think he's gonna wake up dangerous that game. So, yeah.
I have the Panthers as well. Browns don't have a quarterback. Panthers, they're getting CMC back.
Might get hurt week 1, but you'll have him for a solid quarter.
But they have Baker, better than Sam Darnold, so I think their defense got better too. So I think they're gonna win.
Yeah.
I think that's the consensus is what it seems. I agree too. I think that the Panthers are going to win week 1. I think Baker goes off. I do think that he's going to have a very good game. I don't know if he'll have a bounce back season in Carolina because I don't think they'll win a lot of games. But I do think I don't think he's done. I don't think that he's like a backup on a lot of teams, like people were saying, like when he was getting ready to get traded. I don't think that at all. I think he's still a solid starter in this league, and I hope that he can prove that in Carolina. I don't think Carolina wins a lot of games, but I definitely think they win this one week 1. All right, this one's going to be fun. Raiders-Chargers. Do you want to start, Nico?
Yeah, I got Chargers in this one. I think the Chargers are going to be really good this year, especially because they made a couple huge upgrades to their defense with Khalil Mack and then J.C. Jackson.
Yeah.
So, I think the Chargers are going to take this one, and I'm not a huge fan of Justin Herbert, but, I think he's going to have another explosive year, and I got Chargers winning this one.
I got Chargers as well. Raiders are a good team and everything, but the Chargers are on another level. They have Herbert coming for MVP this year, I feel like, and their defense got better, and the weapons, I think they stayed the same, but Keenan Allen's always a safety blanket.
So not much debate here. I'm also going with the Chargers as well. I think the defensive upgrades they made, J.C. Jackson, arguably a top 3 cornerback. They've got Khalil Mack, who's absurd and actually going to be playing on a good team now and not Chicago. But I'm very, very excited to see their defense play out. I think they probably win the AFC West, so I definitely think they take this game week 1. It should be interesting, though. We'll see Devontae Adams' first game with Derek Carr, and that'll be fun. But kind of hope he gets shut down by J.C. Jackson. So no salt or anything. All right, and then let's go to the last one. We'll go Bucks-Cowboys. And this is like a strange pick, but I'm intrigued to hear what you guys say.
I got the Bucks. I think the Cowboys are going to have another 10-7 year, like they always do. But I think Amari Cooper was a huge loss for them. And we'll see how CD does as a wide receiver 1 because, I've seen things and heard things that he might not be the best wide receiver 1, especially with games that Amari Cooper was out last year and CD didn't perform well. So it's going to be interesting. And then the whole running back situation in Dallas, who knows what Zeke's going to do. He hasn't been playing to the best of his ability lately. And I think Tony Pollard, he's going to be fighting for a running back 1 spot in Dallas. But I think the Bucs are just overall I think they're a better team, and I think they're going to take that one.
I was going to pick the Cowboys on this one, but their offensive line went down over the offseason. Multiple people got hurt. It just went like they had one of the best offensive lines in the league the last 2 years, and it just crumbled. But I wanted to take them, but I'm going to go with the Bucs. I can't bet against Brady.
All right, well, I'm going Dallas. And it's going to be tough, right? And I've been looking at all this stuff from them, and the fact that Gallup's not playing because they added him and he's not going to play. And Sunday night in Dallas, I think Dak just takes over. I think Tony Pollard has a good game. I think Zeke does mediocre. And I think CeeDee Lamb proves that he can be a good wide receiver 1. And here's my thing, though, is I have never been very high on the Bucs in their first couple of games. They always show weaknesses in their first couple of games. And then Brady proves that, he's still Tom Brady, and literally nothing can change that. Yeah. But, Brady's had an interesting offseason. He took a leave of absence over training camps.
He got killed by the Dolphins in their first joint practice and decided to walk away. So
really,
exactly right there.
Just saying.
I do think that I'm not gonna have a lot of deep analysis on this, but I do think the Cowboys win. I think Tom Brady's gonna come out and he's gonna have an game, and I think that the Cowboys, it'll be their chance to take it. And I think Trevon Diggs gets a pick, but he also lets up 2 touchdowns. So, but that'll be my pick for that game. So that'll be our picks for that. And then let's move into this last topic. we got NFL. This is our last chance to make these predictions before the season starts. Let's pick Super Bowl matchup and winner, and who you got for like offensive player of the year, NFL, and defensive player of the year.
For Super Bowl matchup,
I think Rams are going back, and I think the Bills do make it this year, and I got Bills winning. Again, like I said earlier, I think the Bills are just a very good team. Like they've been great for these past couple of years. They just haven't been able to make that final push in the playoffs. But this year, I mean, I think they're just sick of losing in the playoffs. So they got that energy in them, and I think they're gonna make the Super Bowl and end up winning it.
Dante, you got a Super Bowl matchup?
I do. I have the Bills versus the Bucks. Despite me saying they start off slow, I think the Bills will get it together after the beginning of the season and make a push for the Super Bowl, and I have them winning it. So I have them getting over the playoff hump and taking home the Super Bowl.
I also have the Bills making the Super Bowl. I feel like in the AFC, they are the strongest team. I feel like a lot of the AFC got a little bit worse. I think it's going to be Bills-Bengals in the AFC Championship, and I wouldn't be surprised if either of those teams go back. I think the Bengals could go back. I think the Bills could go back. I mean, in my opinion, though, I'm looking at these teams, unless you want to say – actually, hold on.
Bengals aren't even.
You know what? I'm
making
taking
the
that back. I'm
playoffs.
taking that back.
Bengals will make the playoffs.
I'm taking
yes,
it back.
but
I'm
they're
taking it
not
back.
gonna be making AFC
Bills
championship.
Chargers is my AFC Championship.
Yes.
And I think
There you
either
go.
of those teams will make it. In my opinion, I think Bills. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Chargers. And then out of the NFC, I know this sounds like such a homer pick, but like the Packers
No.
are going to
Oh
continue.
my
Dude,
gosh.
They
Come
don't
on,
have
man.
receivers.
Here's my thing. I'm looking at the NFC right now. I'm looking at this entire NFC. None of these teams, other than the Rams and I'd say maybe the Buccaneers, are better than the Packers. And, I mean, the 49ers got worse. Arizona has no defense. No one in the NFC South is doing anything other than Tampa. The NFC North is not doing anything. And nobody in the
Saints
NFC
might.
Least is doing anything. Saints aren't doing anything.
Saints aren't
Come
doing
on.
anything.
And nobody in the NFC Least is doing anything. That leaves 3 teams, in my opinion.
I
It's
got
Rams.
Eagles making a huge jump.
I think Eagles make a huge jump, but you think they're doing anything in the playoffs?
Better than the Packers this year, yes.
You think they're doing better than the Packers in the,
the Packers
playoffs?
have no receivers, dude.
Listen. Let me talk. Let me talk. Here we go. So the Packers are going to be one of 3 contenders in the NFC: the Bucks, Rams, Packers. And in my opinion, the Packers defense is going to be so elite this year, and I can see them having a season where it doesn't matter that they have bad receivers, because we've seen Aaron Rodgers with bad receivers, and he continues to do amazing things. I mean, people forget he was throwing Hail Marys to Jeff Janis in the playoffs against the Cardinals. And then why'd they lose that game against the Cardinals? Because their defense was horrible, and they let
Did they make any?
Larry Fitzgerald run 90 yards untouched.
Did they have any big signings in this offseason? Top of defense.
They kept all their defense back, and their defense is going to get better. So they re-signed Devondre Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
They kept Adrian Amos, Razul Douglas, Jair Alexander staying. I think the biggest thing for them is they've got Rodgers. They've got 2 really good running backs. And then they've got, I mean, you're right, their wide receiver core is bad. And it's going to be interesting to see Allen Lazard step up. But they have they've got 2 rookies that are going to be like players to watch in Romeo Doubs and in Christian Watson. So those guys both will be players to watch. They'll still have Sammy Watkins. They signed him.
Okay.
I'm
Okay,
scared.
here's my thing. I'm not saying
Okay.
I'm not saying I didn't say Sammy Watkins was like him, but I'm still saying he's a good wide receiver too.
He's getting old, dude.
He's a low
Okay.
end
Sammy
up.
Watkins hasn't been Sammy Watkins in years.
Okay. Yeah, he hasn't been the same Sammy Watkins who's
If
on the
Sammy
Rams.
Watkins is your wide receiver too,
But
then
I'm still saying that he's still going to be a decent wide receiver. They kept Randall Cobb, who's going to be a good option on offense. I still think that even though they don't have great wide receivers, they're still going to be a solid team. And I think their defense takes them very, very
they'll be
far.
a solid team, yes. But I'm just saying, my thought process is, if Aaron Rodgers couldn't do anything in the playoffs with the best receiver in the game, they kept their defense,
Well,
kept a
here's-
majority of their guys on offense, and now you take away the best receiver. What makes you think they're gonna make a better push?
Here's
in
the reason
playoffs?
I think this is a really scorching hot take, but I think that it's going to sound dumb when it comes off. He used Devontae Adams as a crutch, right?
Yeah.
anytime he needed a first down, he would dump it off to Davante Adams. They lost that game to the 49ers because on a fourth down, he had Allen Lazard wide open in the middle of the field, and he forced it into double coverage to Davante Adams. I mean, whether he's like, oh, he just trusts Davante more than Allen Lazard, it doesn't excuse the fact that it was fourth down and he had his eyes locked on a guy that was in double coverage. So I think that this gives an opportunity to like give all of his receivers equal opportunity to make plays. And it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't clog up the lane for one guy, right?
But what
Davante
if
Adams was drawing double coverage every game.
I'm not saying Allen Lazard is going to be the next Davante Adams, but in Green Bay's situation, Allen Lazard is the clear wide receiver 1. So how do we not know in future games Aaron Rodgers might be starting to use Lazard as a crutch because he has no other people?
The reason I'm saying that is because I think these 2 rookies we got are going to make an impact at some point in the season. Maybe not right away, but I think halfway through, people are going to realize Romeo Doubs or Christian Watson, either of them are going to break out and prove to be pretty decent options on offense. Granted, I still think the Packers will probably choke in the playoffs, but as of right now, I think they go back to the Super Bowl, or I think they try to make a run for the Super Bowl. I think they lose in the Super Bowl. If I'm being completely honest, I think as soon as they get matched up against the Bills
They don't even make the Super Bowl.
just destroy them. But here's my thing, though, is I feel like, I genuinely feel like this is, like, the way that the NFC is matched up right now, I feel like if they'll probably only have to play one of the 2 between the Rams or the Bucks. And I feel like at some point, age is going to catch up to Brady, and at some point, the Rams are going to have an off night with Stafford and then just fall apart.
I'm telling you now, though, if the Packers and Eagles get matched up early, the Eagles are taking it.
Oh, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. I'm sorry. I don't agree with that at all.
Jalen Hurts is going to explode, and he just got better. He just got better weapons.
Okay, but I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that until I've seen Jalen Hurts play this season. Because as of right now, I mean, I still think the Eagles can probably win that division, but I don't think it's going to be by a lot.
Okay.
All right, let's go. Let's move on to the next thing. Bills, Packers, Bills win. That's my take.
All right, MVPs.
Yeah, let's go MVP, and then we'll go Offensive Player of the Year, because I don't know if we have enough time to do defensive.
I think Josh Allen's going to take this MVP. I think, again, with the whole Bills thing, I think he's going to have an even better season than he has before. And I think, especially Rodgers being back-to-back, I don't think Rodgers is going to be up there anymore.
I don't think so.
He has no weapons anymore. So I think this is Josh Allen's time to really make that step for MVP because Aaron Rodgers is out of the picture.
I could see Josh Allen winning it, but
I
got
garbage take.
I got Patrick Mahomes winning it.
Nope.
I feel like he's gonna prove that he doesn't need that safety blanket in Tyreek Hill, and he doesn't have bad wide receivers in Juju, Valdez-Scantling, Kelsey, and then McCool Hardman, I guess you can say. But I think he's gonna spread the ball around and have an insane year.
You ready? Joe Burrow.
Oh my gosh!
I think that
not even making playoffs.
I think that the way that
Okay.
I think the way that the Bengals have one of the strongest wide receiving cores, and they're young too. Jamar Chase exploded. T. Higgins is very solid, and Tyler Boyd as a third option is insane.
Yeah.
They are so young. They're going to continue to improve. He's got Joe Mixon, who's a great running back in the backfield, and their offensive line got completely revamped this offseason. I think that the way that the AFC North stands as is, the only competition is going to be the Ravens. I think they go 2-0 against the Steelers. I think they go 2-0.
Okay.
I think they go 2-0 against the Browns, and I think they split the Ravens. I think this is Joe Burrow's chance to go completely off. He's going to lead them to an AFC North victory. They're going to make at least past the first round in the playoffs, and I think this is his chance to take MVP.
So
I think
wrong.
Joe Burrow for MVP.
So
I'm
many
taking
things
it right
wrong
now.
with that.
I'm
So many
telling you right now.
things.
What? You think the Steelers are beating the Bengals at all?
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
They're at least splitting.
No.
No.
They're at least splitting.
No. I agree
That's
with
bad.
everything you
That's
said.
bad.
I don't think. Joe Burrow is a great quarterback, but I don't think he's there yet to have that MVP season.
I mean, I do think he needs like one or two more seasons
I
under
think
his
in the
belt.
next 1 or 2 seasons he definitely will be, but I just don't think he's there yet, especially with how good AFC quarterbacks are this year. But yeah, I think Bengals are definitely going 2-0 versus the Steelers.
I'll come back to this week 2 after we beat them.
Dude, I'll come back to this week 12 when the Packers are undefeated, bro. And I'll tell you right now, Packers are going to the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow's winning MVP. You got Offensive Player of the Year.
I got Jonathan Taylor. I think he's going to have an explosive year.
I have Christian McCaffrey.
He's going to get hurt week 3.
What?
You can't say anything about my Packers take
He's
after
coming-
you're having
Christian
He's coming back.
McCaffrey is going to get hurt again
He's
by
coming
week
back
3.
fully healthy.
Oh my
he's
He's back fully healthy
the
every
most
single year.
versatile running back in the game
Oh
right
my
now.
God.
That's
He's
gross.
better than
That's
Jonathan
gross.
Taylor.
No,
He is. He is.
No, he is
winning.
not.
He is winning Offensive Player of the Year.
he's not even
I
going to make it
promise
a full. He's not even going to make it half the
Okay.
season.
you. Okay. That's your.
Oh
that's your
my
opinion.
gosh.
Christian McCaffrey, Offensive Player of the Year.
God. You can't give him any crap for his takes.
Justin Jefferson is who I'm picking. I think
good.
Justin
It's a good
Jefferson's going to explode this season. I mean, Kirk Cousins doesn't get enough credit as a quarterback, and this is all coming from a Packers fan. And I really love Justin Jefferson's game. I think he's going to be very, very good. I don't know how good the Vikings are going to be. I don't know if they'll, somewhat compete for a playoff spot, but I do know that Justin Jefferson is going to have an insane season. And my buddy Mark keeps saying, it's like, this is a chance for a 2,000-yard season. He's going to be what Cooper Kupp was this season. And I somewhat agree with that. So I'll be excited to see him play, but that's my pick for Offensive Player of the Year. And we're gonna skip Defensive Player of the Year because I don't think we're gonna talk about it. It'll probably be Aaron Donald again.
TJ Watt.
You think TJ Watt?
He has a chance.
That's not horrible.
Yeah,
I saw something saying like Rashad Gary had a chance, but I don't know if
It's
that's
just
gonna.
It's one of the Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, or Aaron Donald.
Yeah, it'll be one of them. I think Myles Garrett definitely has a case, but I mean the Browns are gonna be so bad this year. But I don't think of that. All right, let's go hot takes, and we'll end this episode.
Okay.
I feel like this whole last segment was a hot take.
Okay, I'll go with mine first. I think Jalen Hurts will have an MVP-like season.
What does that mean?
He's gonna put up great numbers that he's in talks for MVP.
Okay.
I'm not saying he's gonna be top 2, but he's gonna put up numbers this year that are gonna put him in conversations for it. I'm very high on Jalen Hurts this year. I think he's gonna have a great year, especially with them getting AJ Brown. I think he's gonna explode, and then my hot take is he's gonna be in talks for MVP this year.
Okay. My hot take is the Minnesota Vikings making it to the NFC Championship. They have an improved offense. The coach came from the Rams, I'm pretty sure, the offensive coordinator. He already said, or Justin Jefferson was like, I know how Cooper Kupp got open all these times. They improved their defense. Their offensive line's not bad, and as you said, Kirk Cousins is better than people think. So I think they make it to the NFC Championship.
Who do you have them playing in the NFC Championship?
The Bucks.
All right. So what, do you think they make it in as a wild card, or do you think they beat the Packers in the NFC North?
I think they make it in as a wild card.
Okay. Interesting.
Thought you were gonna say some messed up stuff.
Interesting. I mean, okay.
What?
Okay. I have one hot take that's really bad, but
I had two too.
I don't think Nick Saban wins another championship before he retires.
Really?
I don't think he does. I think Georgia is getting a lot better.
Yeah.
I mean, Georgia's continuing to like pound on people. I don't know how much longer Nick Saban's going to be coaching for.
Okay.
But I know that OSU is getting better. I know that Georgia's getting better. And these guys are grabbing recruits like crazy. And the way that NIL works now is like there's less like I feel like there's less incentive to go to go to a team like Alabama because you can go to like any school with a lot of money because it doesn't matter like the program. I mean, you used to go to Alabama because like that's like a big name school, big name program, but like you can go to any of these programs. I mean, what's the one guy what was his name? It was it was like something cool, and he like signed that NIL deal, and he doesn't even go to a major school.
Dakotas
Crawford, and he has like this big NIL deal, and he's at like an FCS school.
Yeah.
And so I mean, at this point, like you don't have to go to the biggest name schools anymore, and I think Georgia's gonna be, in my opinion, like
the new Alabama.
Yeah, for at least the next 5 years.
The only reason I was a little shocked when you said that, but I do agree that Georgia just keeps getting more dominant. Like, I love Ohio State football, and they are getting better, but like we just said, I think Georgia's becoming that new Alabama where they're just going to be dominant for years and years.
I think the only thing about my hot take is that, like, at what point do you think Nick Saban retires? Right? I mean,
I think he's still got
he's
years
70
left.
years. He's 70.
He's 70?
He's 70 years old right now.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
I thought he was like
That's
65 or
crazy.
something.
He's 70 years old, and in my opinion, I don't know if Alabama wins it in the next 5 years.
I think they got a chance this year. I
think this year, but then after that,
after this year, I don't think they have as good as a chance because Bryce Young's still there.
Bryce Young's still there.
He's
but
a great
as soon as
quarterback.
Bryce
He's
Young
gonna be top
leaves,
pick, but I think this year is going to be one of their like last best chances.
but the SEC is getting pretty strong, and I mean, like, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple upsets throughout there. I mean, I think Arkansas is a pretty good team. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they like upset something against Alabama. I mean, granted, look, Alabama's always going to have a very, very solid team. I just don't know how much longer Nick Saban has in his coaching career and if they can grab one championship. I will give them one. I think they win one. I don't think they win more than one championship.
One's the highest.
Because I think, I mean, if the next championship comes 4 or 5 years down the road, does Saban retire off a championship? Like, if he's 75 years old, I mean, how long do you think he coaches still?
Yeah.
So if he's 75 years old, just won a championship, I think that might be where he calls it quits. So that's my hot take. All right.
It'll be good.
Well, that'll finish us off for this episode. A little bit long. Yeah, I'll go quick. A little bit long towards the end. I might cut some of that stuff. But anyways, thank you for listening to this episode. If you want your hot take on this episode, send it to us. If you want us to react to your hot take, I'm trying to get this going because I think it's a fun segment that we do at the end. So we'll send us your hot takes if you have one. Just DM them to us on Instagram. Just film you recording yourself. DM them to us. Speaking of Instagram, follow us. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on TikTok. We don't really post much, but we're on Twitter as well. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you like this video if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple and Spotify, we appreciate all the support as well. Join us back next week. We'll have another episode like that. You guys got anything you want to add before we leave?
Book it.
Book it. We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.
See ya.